Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. Now just to give a bit of an update, last project I finished off these two, well what should have been two bowls. Had problems with that one and it ended up as some form of a little platter. These have only had the one coat of Danish oil so far and I just buffed them up with my drill with a mop. Just as I came in here this morning, they've been sat here since last weekend. I will probably give them another coat or two of Danish oil, but at the same time as well, as what's interesting as well, they also sit as one piece. Fortune or not, I don't know. But I will give those more coats and see what they come out like. This last week I've also put an order in with Taylor Murfield and I ordered the Athena Click pen kits. Now, never ever had those before, so hopefully I'll do a video at some point of what I think of that. All of their other pen kits are really good quality, so I can't see there's going to be any disappointment there. Just had a slight issue with the delivery order, which I'm sure they'll come back to me pretty quick and resolve as they normally do. While I was there, I also ordered some Iridescent for a change, and I know a few people who use this really praise it. It lasts absolutely ages compared to sandpaper, so I thought I'd give it a go because it was so cheap. So look at their website, you get these individual sizes like this. These are 70mm wide by 125mm long. I have gone from literally the 80 grit right the way up to 600 grit. I've got 4 lots of each, and these work out when you buy 4, so it's £1.96, so that's something like what, 49 pence a piece, which is really cheap as far as I'm concerned compared to other places I've seen. And the good thing about the Iridescent, which if you've never used it before, it's full of holes which hopefully you can see through there, so therefore it doesn't really clog up like normal sandpaper. On the last project, when I was doing those bowls, I'd also found this ash box, which is what I'm going to concentrate on today. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with this fully yet, because it has half of the wood here is really a lot darker in the grain, which is going to be really nice. Now I might darken this all a little bit with something like the walnut crystals and see what it comes up like. But the first thing I'm going to do is more or less get this turned to finish shape and then decide what to do from there. I will probably speed the whole video up because you've seen me do several boxes before, and I think this is really more a project about what I'm going to finish off doing with this for colouring wise. I probably didn't actually need to give that a coat of sand and sealer, but I have knocked that back with a 600 again, and that is really smooth. And I've got to say, even though this is really nice wood, I just want to see what this comes up like with a little bit of darkening with the walnut crystals. And I'm just going to see what this comes out like. Hopefully it's not going to darken it too much. Hopefully, shouldn't too much. Right, that's a lot better. Just took it right back, so it's just darkened it up slightly, which is more what I wanted. And I only had to use the 400 and 600, So just to seal that off now inside, I will then give that another coat of sanding sealer. Now just giving that a light coat of the colouring again, knock that back with 400 and 600 grit and giving it a coat of sand and sealer, and that's all I've done. I haven't knocked it back or anything, it is really smooth. Now for a finish on the inside, I've decided that for now I'm going to give this a wax finish on the inside, even though the outside may differ. And I've decided for a change to actually use the Briwax, and I've gone for a medium brown here. I do have a dark oak as well, and the reason I want to do this is because it will help fill the grain. And Briwax I've had for years, and it really is a nice product to use. And you can just keep building this up. The idea is to just fully rub it into the grain. And then let it dry. So it just enhances that grain a little bit more. You let it dry and then you can buff it up, and you can keep adding more and more coats to give it a lot harder finish and shine. That's already given a nice finish on there. I'll top that up with another probably 2 or 3 coats, and before I then turn around and do the inside on here as well. This has now had 3 coats of the Briwax inside, and hopefully it shows on there. This has come up really nicely, and I've still got that two-tone effect there from where this dark piece of wood comes through, and that's what I was trying to keep. So that's why I don't want to do this too dark. So I'm going to use the walnut crystals on this again to darken this up. As I say, I want to just darken it slightly, but still show this 2-stage of the grain of the wood. So this has been sanded to 600 now. Now the wood has certainly lost that two-tone effect. It is just about there, which it might come back when we get a finish on this. But I've sanded this down to 600, put the walnut crystals on for the colouring, let that dry for about half hour or so, then sanded it back, I then gave it a coat of sanding sealer, and I've just haven't sanded it or anything. It's nice and smooth, there's no raised grain or anything. Now I'm going to do something similar to like I did with a vase with the string pull art. I'm going to create like a grass scene on here. So I've got this thick bristly string, and I'm going to just got the Joe Sonja green iridescent paint in there. I might have to mix a lot more up like I did with the other vase. Just lay it on there and create these swirls upwards, so it just looks a bit like a grass effect. Now the interesting thing on this is going to be as well as seeing how this goes with the lighter background. Now what I'm finding here is the paint really does need to dry, and you need to put quite a few thick coats on. Where you can see probably all this brighter green here, that's all from the first layer, which is all dried out. I did thin the paint out a little bit, and I've now gone round and just put a second layer, hopefully where you can just see like all this creamy bit all around the edge, and it doesn't really show up until you look at it directly. This has been left to dry overnight now, and I've got to say it looks pretty awful. I don't know how well it shows on the camera there. Just switch off some of my lights. When you look at it directly with the light, you get the nice green pattern, but because the background is fairly light, anything at an angle then comes out this creamy colour, and it's absolutely horrible. I've got two choices. Either I need to darken the background right up, which I don't really want to do because I do want this more natural wood colour coming through, the lighter colour of the ash. I don't want to darken this right off. Or alternatively, I then have to go to things like ordinary acrylic paints, which I don't have anyway, to put all the colours down. So I'm going to scrap the idea of colouring on this. I'm going to sand this right back, apply a bit more of the walnut colouring again once it's all back again, sand that back a bit, and so that I finish it off the same as I've got on the inside. And you just need to rub this totally into the grain. And hopefully you can just see with just one coat on there, that has come up really, really nicely. That's another project done with experimentation, changing your mind as you go along. So this was a piece of ash I'd rough turned 2 years ago and finished off today. Idea, because of this two-tone wood in here, was I wanted to try and keep as much of that as possible, and it has shown on there, but I had intended on doing some form of decoration with the iridescent paints, but I didn't want to darken this too much, and I've found that the iridescent paints really do need a much darker background for them to really stand out properly. I think in the end though that this has come out a lot better than had I done anything with paints or anything like that anyway. I did want to darken this up slightly, which is why I went for the walnut crystals, and it was a little bit of a mistake to start with when I did the inside. I put the sanding sealer on and then I put the walnut crystals on, and I found that it just didn't really take too much, which I'm pleased really, because it's darkened the inside up quite nicely, but it's still got that two-tone effect. The walls on this are actually quite thin. We're probably talking about 3 to 4 mil there at the most. It's really, really smooth. It's all been sanded to 600. Using the walnut crystals has just darkened up slightly, which is what I wanted. For finish wise, I've gone for Briwax, which is a medium brown coloured. Now I believe Briwax have been around for a very long time, Certainly the Briwax brand itself, as in this, has been around I think since about the 60s. The actual company itself started I think something like about 1860, which is where even these modern waxes are still based around those original formulas. Now the good thing about these, by getting the coloured waxes, it stains into the grain, so to me this now looks more natural. It looks a bit more aged, and it did give that effect that I wanted. You can build up the layers to give it that much more of a sheen as you go along. This has had probably about three coats in there, and it does have a really nice sheen to it. So the bottom, I just used my sanding head on the pillar drill and just sanded that all nice and flat. Did my usual signature with my name, date and the wood type on there, and I've also given this a coat of sanding sealer and the same wax as well, which I just hand buffed off. So in the end, changed around as I went along. I did leave the iridescent colours overnight to fully dry, and like I say, they just didn't look right whatsoever. So sanded that all back and put it back to where I should be, and I'm really pleased with how the final thing has come out. The Abranet, first time I've ever used it. What do I think of it? So I've got to say, it's certainly a lot nicer to use than sandpaper. Even big pieces like this, which are certainly big compared to the little thin strips that I usually use of sandpaper. Nice and easy to use. The one thing I will say though is you can certainly feel where you've used it, so it's, even with the small amount I've used it, it's already started reducing its life. It will certainly last a lot longer than ordinary sandpaper. The good thing is that it doesn't really clog up. For the price of these, I think they were something like 47 pence a square. It's worthwhile. If you're putting an order in with somebody like Taylor's Murfield, who are selling them these cheap, get yourself a set, if not 2 or 3, because it is worth the money. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next project video.